You ever open your banking app and just kind of stare at it for a second? Like not even shocked anymore, just staring. There's money in there, technically. Maybe you got paid a few days ago. Maybe there's still a little left. But somehow it already feels spoken for. Rent, bills, groceries, that one random expense you didn't see coming. It all just kind of dissolves before you even had a chance to do anything with it. And then you tell yourself, next month I'll start saving. Next month I'll invest. Next month I'll get serious. But next month comes around and it's the same story. And the weird part is, you're not reckless. You're not out here making wild decisions. You're just living. And still it feels like you're stuck in place while other people somehow move forward. Why does that happen? Like, what's the actual difference between someone who slowly builds wealth and someone who feels like they're running in place for years? I've spent way too much time thinking about that question. Like, honestly, more than I probably should. And my name is Nick, and I kind of fell into this habit of obsessing over money, decisions, and the tiny moments that quietly shape your financial future without you even realizing it. And here's the thing I didn't expect to realize. It's not about how much money you start with. It's not even about how smart you are. It's about one decision. One specific decision that happens early, sometimes so early you don't even recognize it as a decision, and it sets the direction for everything that comes after. And if you get that one thing wrong, you can work hard for years and still feel stuck. But if you get it right, things start to shift. Slowly at first, and then all at once. So let's talk about that decision, because once you see it, you can't really unsee it.
Here's what's kind of frustrating about this whole thing. The decision that shapes your financial future doesn't feel dramatic. There's no big moment, no cinematic turning point. No one hands you two doors and says, "Choose wisely." It's way quieter than that. It shows up the first time you have a little bit of extra money. Maybe it's your first paycheck, or a bonus, or even just a month where you didn't spend everything. And in that moment, you have a choice. Do I consume this money, or do I invest it? Now that sounds obvious, right? But in real life, it doesn't feel like that. Because it's not framed as consumption versus investment. It's framed as, should I upgrade my phone? Should I treat myself this weekend? Should I finally buy that thing I've been wanting? And honestly, those are all reasonable questions. Like, you work hard. Of course you want to enjoy your money. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people don't consciously decide to prioritize consumption. They just default to it. And that default becomes a habit. And that habit becomes a lifestyle. And suddenly, years have passed, and they've never really started investing, not because they didn't want to, but because they never made that first intentional shift. It's like standing on an escalator that's going down and thinking, I'll walk up later. But later never comes. Let's be honest for a second. Spending money feels good. Like, there's no point pretending it doesn't. You buy something new, clothes, gadgets, food, whatever. And there's this little hit of excitement. It's immediate, it's tangible, you can see it, touch it, experience it right away. Investing, on the other hand, it's kind of boring. You move money into an account, nothing happens, no fireworks, no instant reward. And your brain is like, wait, that's it? This is actually a psychological thing. Your brain is wired to prefer immediate rewards over delayed ones. It's called instant gratification, and it's incredibly powerful. So when you're choosing between something you can enjoy right now and something that might benefit you years later, your brain is heavily biased toward the first option. And here's the dangerous part. It doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels normal. It feels justified. It feels like, I'll invest later when I have more money. But that later mindset is exactly what keeps people stuck. Because investing isn't something you start when you have extra money, it's something you start so that you create extra money.
This is where things get a little unexpected, because when people think about investing, they think about stocks, real estate, crypto, all that stuff. But your first investment decision isn't about any of those things. It's about identity. Yeah, I know that sounds a little abstract, but stick with me. At some point, consciously or not, you decide, am I someone who spends first and invests later? Or am I someone who invests first and spends what's left? That one shift changes everything. Because if you see yourself as an investor, even a small one, your behavior starts to align with that identity. You begin to think differently. You start noticing opportunities. You feel slightly uncomfortable spending money that could have been invested. Not in a guilt-heavy way, more like a quiet awareness. And over time, that awareness compounds, just like money does. Let's make this really simple. Imagine two people. They both earn the same amount. They both have the same expenses. They both live similar lives. But there's one difference. Person A spends first, then invests whatever is left. Person B invests first, even a small amount, and spends what's left. In the beginning, there's almost no difference. Like visually, their lives look the same. Same lifestyle, same purchases, same habits. But under the surface, something very different is happening. Person A is training themselves to prioritize consumption. Person B is training themselves to prioritize growth. And that training compounds over time. Because it's not just about the money, it's about the pattern. 5 years later, Person B doesn't just have more money. They have a completely different relationship with money. They've built discipline, awareness, confidence. And Person A, they're still waiting for the right time to start. This one gets almost everyone. I'll start investing when I make more money. Sounds reasonable, right? But it's actually one of the biggest traps. Because if you can't invest a small amount now, you won't invest a large amount later. Why? Because your habits scale with your income. When you earn more, you don't suddenly become disciplined. You just have more room to continue the same patterns. More money to more spending to same outcome. It's like upgrading your lifestyle instead of upgrading your strategy. And honestly, I've seen this happen so many times. People get raises, promotions, new opportunities, and instead of getting ahead, they just get more comfortable. Better phone, better car, better everything. Except their financial foundation. That stays the same.
Let's talk about something that feels kind of pointless at first. Investing small amounts, like really small. And I know what you're thinking. What difference is $10 or $50 even going to make? And yeah, in the short term, not much. But that's not the point. The point is momentum. The point is proving to yourself that you do it. Because once you start, even at a small level, something shifts. You stop being someone who plans to invest. You become someone who does invest. And that identity change is way more powerful than the amount itself. Also, small investments grow, slowly at first, and then faster. Compounding is weird like that. It's kind of invisible in the beginning, and then one day, it's not. Money isn't just math, it's emotional. It's tied to fear, security, freedom, identity, all of it. And your first investment decision is emotional too, because you're basically saying, I trust my future self enough to invest in it. And that's not always easy, especially if you've grown up in an environment where money was unstable, where spending now felt safer than saving for later. So if investing feels uncomfortable, that's normal. It's not just about numbers, it's about changing how you relate to time, risk, and yourself. When you make that first shift from consuming first to investing first, a few things start to happen. You become more intentional. You question purchases more. You start thinking long-term. You notice how small decisions add up, and slowly you build a sense of control. Not overnight, but gradually. And that sense of control is what leads to real financial growth, because you're no longer reacting to money, you're directing it.
So here's the thing. Getting rich, or at least getting financially stable, secure, and free, isn't about one big move.
It's not about timing the market perfectly. It's not about finding some secret opportunity that no one else knows about. It's about a small, quiet decision you make early on. Do I invest first or do I spend first? And the reason this matters so much isn't because of the amount. It's because of the direction. Because money, over time, follows patterns, and patterns follow decisions. And decisions, well, they start small. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't have enough to invest yet, that's okay. You don't need a lot. You just need to start, even a little, even imperfectly. Because once you make that shift, everything else becomes easier to figure out. You'll learn, you'll adjust, you'll improve, but you'll be moving. And that's the difference. Not perfection, not massive income, just movement in the right direction. So maybe the question isn't, how much can I invest? Maybe it's, am I ready to become the kind of person who invests first? And honestly, that's a much more powerful place to start.